Appreciate this opportunity, and I would encourage you to have a paper and pen because I never know what's going to come out of my face. I got an idea what I'm going to say, but I don't know what's going to come out because I have been taken over before. So, the let me start this way. The way I start every presentation, whether I'm standing in front of 25,000 in an arena, 25 people in a room, two people in front of me, is with my pre-event prayer. Lord, allow the words I share here today to positively impact 100% of the lives in this audience one way, shape, or form. Only you know who you sent here to hear this message. Allow me to do the best I can to deliver that message, be a vehicle, and of service to you. All I can ever control is having a high intention and a low attachment. A high intention of imparting something great for each and every one of you here today, and a low attachment as to what that is specifically for either you or for me. So it's the intention of wanting to share. Uh, Classically, for those who were on earlier, they heard, but classically, I'm a sales guy and I'm a sales trainer and I'm a speaker. Now, I'm actually a speaker, trainer, author, coach, consultant, media host, and I was working to build six businesses at once. And towards the end of last year, I went, that's crazy. What are you doing? And so I went for a walk with my 75-pound black standard poodle, Wilson. And poodles are very smart. And I said, Wilson, what does Dad really love to do? And he said, well, that's obvious, speak and train. And I said, Wilson, what makes him happiest? He said, training. I said, you're right. For me, it's about imparting a message because I can see the flash in somebody's eyes. I can see that I shared something that will improve their life for the rest of their life. And so I basically said, okay, that's what I'm doing from this point forward is training and speaking. That's my focus. So it was interesting in a Christian entrepreneurial group. Coach Paul had posted, I want to up my sales and marketing game this year. And I said, that's in my wheelhouse. Let's talk. It's exactly what I do and have done for years. And so you sit and you sometimes wonder, you know, who is this guy and why? Sometimes I wonder. The reality is that, how does Jesus use a sales guy? If you really think about it, Jesus was a sales guy. See, we're all sales guys and gals. The reality is, by definition, a sale is the exchange of a product, good, or service for an amount of money or its equivalent. Well, sometimes people get hung up on the money side of it. Well, it's the exchange of a product, good, or service because it makes my heart feel good. So that's the foundation that I teach from. Well, I actually created my heart-centered selling definition of sales, which is education through communication without manipulation. We're all teachers. Everything we do is a sale. The fact is, most people haven't framed it that way in their mind. Now you're going, wait a second, why are we having a sales talk here, in a Christian group? Don't worry, I'll get there. I'll pull it all together. But the fact is, we're all in sales every minute of every day. Every time we show up to a meeting, we've made a sale. Every time we open our mouth, we've made a sale. Now, that's a pretty dramatic statement. I'd expect you to make me prove it. Okay, I'll prove it. How many of you have ever been on a date? You made a sale. How many of you have ever put a kid to bed? You've made a sale. How many of you are married? You're better at this than you think. You see, the reality is all of that is a sale. And so understand sales is just selling is serving. Selling is nothing more than identifying a problem and providing a solution. So let's think that through. We now want to share Jesus with people. identify a problem, provide a solution. That's all it is. And so in reality, the fact is when we are presenting, we are selling. So just but it's okay. It's a good thing. It's a noble thing to do. And so again, how did a sales guy come to share messages of hope and inspiration? Well, I made a declaration on stage one day. I was in the round, 10,000 in the audience, uh, surrounding us, right? And I was asked to do this presentation on a financial services product. And I said, the only way I'll do it is if I can weave it into a talk that God had put on my heart called the Trilogy of Success: faith, family, focus. And I said, I'll make it faith, family, finance. So I'll do that as long as I can do the first two parts. Well, I did faith and it came off great. The audience loved it. And I did family and it was great and the audience loved it. And I clicked to go on to finance, what I was really there to present, and my cheater screens on stage all went black. Now you got two in front of you on each side, right? So there's 8 screens and they're all black. I had no presentation, but I'm standing in front of 10,000 people and they're expecting me to keep talking. So all of a sudden I had to pull from other places and share a message. Well, I've done 3,000 live events in my career. I've been very blessed to have that opportunity. One thing that you develop when you've done that many talks is you have the ability to be talking to the audience, be thinking about what you're going to order for lunch. Gosh, what did I leave in my hotel room? All at the same time. Well, I was talking to the audience and I decided to get in an argument with God on stage. God, why have you done this to me? Why are you publicly humiliating me? Why are you ending my career in such a public fashion? I didn't want this gig in the first place. You're the one who brought it to me. I'm now like bare naked in front of 10,000 people in the round. And so I'm talking to the audience, but I'm having this ongoing argument with God. Well, I finished the talk. I send people to the tables like I'm supposed to. They shut off my mic. And as soon as they shut off my mic, I look straight up and I go, God, that is, I'm done being a hired gun, except for 3 things: sharing messages of hope and inspiration, teaching and training others to do the same, and building your kingdom. Do you hear me? I am done. D-U-N, done. And now I've still got to walk off stage and through the crowd. Well, they all cheering because they think I'm fired up about my talk. I'm not. I'm in a full-blown argument with God on stage. So I now come off the stage. I got to walk through the audience to get to the green room. People are high-fiving me. That was great. That was awesome. Oh my goodness, you're so good. I'm like, I don't know what you saw. My career's over, right? I get to the green room and there was a woman standing there that had spoken earlier in the day. And I knew she was powerful, but it's one of those things I didn't know everything that she had said. So I came into the green room. She goes, "You were great." I said, "I don't know what you just saw. My career is over." She goes, "No, that was awesome." I said, "No, I'm done." I was so dejected by what had happened. I went back to the downtown Marriott in Denver and I changed into blue jeans because I was going to Jimmy John's for an unwich. The reason was simple. I had $7.48 in my pocket and not a single credit card that worked. The only reason I took that gig was because of all the money that they promised me that would be available to me. I was as dejected as I've ever been in my life. Well, I come down the elevators and I am beelining out the front door of the downtown Marriott. And all of a sudden, about halfway through the lobby, I take a sharp left and I walk straight to the table where this woman, her assistant, Lance Wallnow, who had given the gospel at the event that day, and his wife Annabelle were sitting at a table. And I walked up to the table and I stopped. And she looked up and she goes, "Oh, hi. Why don't you join us?" I said, "No, ma'am. Um, I'm not really in much of a mood. I don't think I'd be very good company. I guess I just came over to say I'm sorry. That wasn't really me today. That's not who I am." She goes, "Please sit." I go, "No, ma'am. I'm going to Jimmy John's for an unwitch." She said, "Sit." I said, "Yes, ma'am." She goes, "Give me your hand." Lance, take his hand. Everybody bow. And she started praying. And she wasn't little praying. She was praying. And she was praying in all sorts of stuff I had never heard before. And she raised her head after she was done. She said, "Okay, it's settled. You're going to dinner with us." I said, "No, ma'am. I'm going to Jimmy John's for an unwitch." She goes, "You're going to dinner with us." I said, "Yes, ma'am." And so we went to Unsinkable Molly Brown's in downtown Denver, not an inexpensive place. I've got $7.48 and not a single credit card that works. We go to Unsinkable Molly Brown's and they talk about me the entire dinner. "Lance, are you getting what I'm getting? Do we need to do? Can you feel?" "Yeah, yes, yeah." I said, "I'm sitting right here." They said, "Be quiet." I said, "Yes, ma'am." And so as we finished dinner, it came time for the checks. And all I was hoping is somebody would pick up the check so I wouldn't be completely embarrassed. And they said, "Five checks, please." Uh-oh. And so I knew I didn't have a credit card that worked, but I had to save face. So they gave me mine. I threw my credit card in there. I gave it to the woman. I figured, well, when they came back and I would, "Oh, I don't know what's going on. They must not have posted something," or I don't know what I was going to do. I just was trying to save face at that point. And she comes back and she says, "Thank you, Mr. Schilling." And I said, "Excuse me?" And I opened it up and the credit card had gone through. Okay, now this is wild. So I sign it. Everybody signs their tickets. And she said, "Okay, it's settled then. We're going to go back to the hotel. There's going to be a room open. We're going to go up to the room. We're going to put a chair in the middle of the room. We're each going to get on four corners of you, and we're going to baptize you in the Holy Spirit." I said, "Excuse me?" She said, "You don't know what that is, but you will." I said, "Yes, ma'am." I had learned this at this point. It didn't make any difference if I was trying to fight any of this. And so we literally think of this. Lance Wallnow and I and his wife and her assistant walk up to the front desk 10:45 at night in the downtown Marriott to have a 72-year-old woman say, "I need a room, probably just for about an hour. What's available?" I mean, it's a pretty funny scene if you think about it. The woman says, "Cheyenne room, top of the stairs. There's a conference room. It's open." We go up to the second floor. They lay a seat down. They put a chair at all four corners of me. They lay hands on me and they start praying. And they are praying now for I don't know how long, over an hour. And all of a sudden I started praying. And she said, "Okay, good. You don't know exactly what just happened. So here's our next plan of attack." I said, "Really? What's that?" She said, "On Tuesdays at 10 a.m., we're going to have a phone call and I'm going to impart into you for an hour. And then you're going to do your homework overnight. And Wednesday at 10 a.m., I'm going to call again and you're going to give me the results of your homework. We are now going to go through the fruits of the Spirit, exactly what the meaning is by being baptized in the Holy Spirit and everything that God is calling you to do." I said, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa. I can't afford your fees. I don't have this opportunity to, I mean, I know you're amazing. Don't get me wrong, but I took this gig because I'm broke." And she said, "Don't worry about the bill. Your father's already paid it." She said, "God has assigned you to me." Now, I share this story because nothing like this has ever happened to me before. And I said to her, "Why me?" And she said, "Remember that declaration you made? I'm done being a hired gun. I'm here to share messages of hope and inspiration. Teach and train others to do the same and build your kingdom." He heard you. He believed you. He'll never let you out of it. Hold on. And she was right. The reality is, when we make that decision, hold on, the opportunity becomes our oyster. Now, I know on the information went out, it said you're going to learn about God's equation for total peace. Well, that's what I had to learn through all this because I'm not the grand theologian, but I can tell you story after story of incidents that have happened to me. Once I made that declaration and I said, "You use me as you desire." And in fact, I had tremendous frustration for many years. And we were out on the road at a big seminar event, and I was fortunate enough to be with an amazing speaker, Krish Dunham, who is not only an amazing speaker, he's a tremendous evangelist. And I said, "Krish, I don't get it. All this stuff happened to me. I got baptized in the Holy Spirit. I was told that everything was going to do this. And I said, my prayer has been, God used me." And I'm hearing crickets. My hearing device must not be, my discernibility. I must not, my discerner must be turned off. It's not coming to me. And Chris just laughed. And I said, "Did I say something funny? My prayer is God use me?" He said, "Yeah, wrong prayer." I said, "Excuse me? How can God use me be the wrong prayer?" He said, "It's simple. The prayer isn't God use me. The prayer is God make me usable." Wow. God make me usable. And that's what I started praying. And so I started looking at different things. And December 14th was my 10-year anniversary living through a near-death experience. And it's part of the reason why I got very reflective. Have I done what I committed to do? Have I shared enough messages? Have I helped enough people? And I realized, no, I haven't. I've done a lot of really good things, but I haven't done them all. And I can train and I can speak and I can serve more people. Well, I wrote a book about the near-death experience and all the different things, and I thought, this is it. And it launched March of 2020. Anything else happen in March of 2020? Oh, wait a second. Did I say it launched the day that the national shelter in home order came down? So now I wrote about all this, working to do my part to share the message. And while the book has touched many people, it certainly hasn't touched all the people I thought it would touch. You ever think you're doing what God has asked you to do and then it hasn't done exactly what you anticipated? Hmm. What it reminds me of Mother Teresa's quote, "If you can't feed 100, feed one." Feed one. We all want to feed 100. We all want to feed 1,000. We all want to do more, bigger, and greater. But the reality is, if we do this one at a time, we do a pretty good job. So I really looked at the book that I wrote and I realized that what I had really written was God's equation to total peace. And it's a math problem. And the math problem is just this: God's plan and timing is perfect, plus all things work together for my good equals total peace. See, I had a near-death experience. That was God's plan and timing. I didn't understand the plan. I didn't understand the timing. I didn't understand any of it. I could have been really upset by it and really messed up by it. But when you add all things work together for my good, you go, I don't need to understand why God did this. I don't need to understand what the plan was because I know whatever the plan is for my good. And all of a sudden, you find a different level of peace. If you've got a desire to do more, to share more, to do whatever, and you don't think the effect that you're having has been big enough, strong enough, wide enough, tall enough, whatever, it's okay. It's his plan and timing. You've planted the seed. There's a difference between the time it takes to grow a rose and bamboo. In either case, you put seed in the ground, but the rose grows in a matter of days. Bamboo doesn't break the surface for 5 years. See, they both start with a seed. The difference is the the time it takes for that seed to germinate and mature. Well, that's the way it is with people too. Sometimes people got to hear the message over and over and over again. And sometimes they just have to watch your consistency. Are you still believing it? Are you still acting in it? Are you still working in it? Well, yeah, they told me this was a good thing, but then why are they doing the things they're doing? See, that's where the trusting in the plan comes in. I mean, if you trust that you're supposed to share the God's plan and timing, and you do that, sometimes it takes time. It's just the way it works. So that equation is understanding that now you can be at total peace. I have had some really great ups. I have shared the stage with every name you know. I've done 25,000 person events. I've done 3,000 events. I was the front man of 8 infomercials. I was blah, 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 blah. Those are all wonderful things. But all those are is opportunities to share a consistent message that good people do good things for other people. That's all part of it. So, again, another thing that was said on the message to everybody was that you'd learn how to the lesson of finding a lesson in every challenge. Well, what I've learned is, and I've created 5 questions that I coach my clients with and that I share from stage, and I do all this in any situation. If you don't really get the result that you're looking for, ask these 5 questions. What's the lesson that I can learn from this? What's the gift that's been delivered? What did I do to create this? How would I modify this next time to make it better? How is this going to serve me the rest of my life? If you learn to ask those 5 questions in any less than perfect result, it'll uncover the lesson, the gift, and everything about it. So again, I had a near-death experience. I was going to a speaking event, balanced a box of books on my knee, flipped open the back hatch of my SUV, ducked underneath it to put the books in. As fast as I flipped it up, the cylinders didn't hold it up. It bounced, came down, hit me in the back of the head. Just about cold cocked me. I mean, I was seeing stars, I had a headache, but I had to get off to my event. So, what's the lesson? Take time when you're putting a box of books into the back of your SUV. Don't be so careless with flipping it up. It's crazy. What's the gift? Well, we came to find out that that bang in the back of the head dissected a vessel, the posterior interior cerebellar artery in my brain. The gift is I'm still here. I'm alive. I, I was saved by the grace, mercy, and favor of God. It's a pretty tremendous gift. So, what did I do to create it? Well, I was in a hurry. I threw the thing up too fast. I was just rushing around. I was doing all this stuff. Okay, don't do that. Take some extra time. What did I do to create it? Or how would I modify it next time? Well, first thing you do is you sell that vehicle. Never keep a vehicle that attacks you. But the real point is, how would I modify it next time? I would take more time. I would do some things. How is this going to serve me the rest of my life? Well, as it turned out, I was scheduled to speak at a Christian men's group. I had been scheduled for 8 months, and it was 23 days from my near death experience. The session before, they received the call that I was in the hospital, not knowing if I would live, and the entire group prayed for me. And the next month's session, I was the speaker. Now, you want to know the funny part? The title was determined 4 months earlier and had been promoted for 4 months. The title was Man Plans and God Laughs. Hmm. So I was able to speak on stage 23 days after a near-death experience. And I said, the title remains the same, Man Plans and God Laughs. But I can tell you, the content is totally different. And I was able to share with everybody this event. See, I was able to share what had just happened to me. And I said, when you have a headache for 8 straight days, they call that a clue. Now, I'm a guy. What did I do? Nothing. 4 days afterwards, I got on an airplane just to really exasperate it. Going up through pressure and coming back down, I thought my head was going to blow off. I just tried to wait until it did blow off. And 8 days after I got banged in the head, it let go. And all of a sudden, I was standing on two tingling stumps from just above the knees down. My legs stopped. I looked down at my right foot and I said, move, and it said no. And I looked down at my left foot and I said, move, and it said no. And all of a sudden, I started getting disoriented and I started falling back. Well, fortunately, there was a railing behind me I grabbed. I was walking with 7 people, 3 of them doctors. Coincidence? I think not. One of them threw a chair underneath me. I fell into the chair. One of the doctors spun around and said, Scott, what's your phone number? I said, 817-239, blah, 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 blah. Why would you be asking me that now? Can't you see I can't walk? Oh, no reason. Well, there was a reason. I was cold. I was gray. I was clammy. I was sweating profusely. I was in the full-blown throes of a cerebellar stroke. Now, for those that don't know the cerebellum is responsible for speech, memory, fine motor skills, walking, talking, vertigo. By the grace of God, I come out like this. So, the reality is they took me to the emergency room, who then misdiagnosed me. After 5 hours of tests, they released me with a major migraine. And basically, I went back to my hotel room. The pain was so bad, I cried out, God, help! And I heard an audible, drop to your knees. So I slid out of bed. I had my elbows on the bed. And I said, Lord, I've been teaching your plan and timing is perfect for the last couple of years now. I do not pretend to understand this plan or this timing. I do not believe that your plan is to call me home. And I do not believe your plan is to maim me or disable me. So I'm choosing to believe your plan is to wake me up. Duly noted. You got my attention. And I'm supposed to use this event to serve and save myself and others spiritually and physically for the rest of my life. And if that, in fact, is your will for my life, I ask for your wisdom and guidance going forward so I implement that appropriately. And if that's not your will for my life, I just want you to know whatever you got for me, I'm good with. I went to climb up into bed, didn't climb into bed. I climbed up on a cloud, total peace, zero pain. Have never felt it before, have never felt it since. It was absolutely amazing. Next day, actually got up, went on set, shot three infomercial segments, 58 minutes, 18 minutes, 14 minutes, went to another neurologist who then did an MRI, and his first words after reading it, get your butt to the hospital, check into ICU, you've had a stroke. Then I spent 6 days in intensive care. And the doctors consistently would be in my room or just outside my room, and here's what I heard repeatedly. We don't understand why he's alive. Now, I'm a little competitive, and one of the probably the fifth day, the doctors said, we don't understand why you're alive. And I said, sorry to disappoint you. I've always been an overachiever. I lived. They said, you kind of sound like a smart butt. And I said, no, not really. I'm just a little upset that you keep on saying I should be dead. And they said, we don't get it. We got two other stroke patients on the floor. Their MRI's not nearly as bad as yours. One, not going to make it. And the other one, totally incapacitated. Can't speak, lost half their body. You know, they're if they make it, it's going to be a long road back if they ever come back. And you're in here laughing, joking, goofing off. We just don't get it. And I said, well, I got it all figured out. And they said, okay, what is it? I said, it's obvious. It's God's grace, mercy, and favor on my life. They said, well, that's as good an answer as we got. And they put together the discharge papers. I don't understand it, but I also don't take credit for it. And so the point is, I was saved to share messages of hope and inspiration, to teach and train others to do the same, to help build the kingdom because we all have that opportunity. It's a choice. The question is, do we take the choice? So another thing that was said on it was, how do you use your gift on the invitation, how do you use your gift in marketplace ministry? Well, here's the interesting part that many people haven't correlated. Jesus spoke 137 times in the Bible. 122 of those times was in the marketplace. Coincidence? I think not. So again, where are we supposed to do this? Paul and I had this conversation when Paul was officially a pastor. As a pastor, if he says Jesus is the way, what do I expect him to say? Jesus is not the way? He's never going to say that. But if a business person says Jesus is the way, here's what it's done for me, and here's where I go to be fed, now you have influence. See, if I tell you I'm an awesome speaker and I've done 3,000 events and I've done this and blah, 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 you go, gosh, what a pompous ass. But if Paul introduces me and says, this guy has done 3,000 live events, he's done all this different stuff, please welcome Scott Schilling. Now, me answering to that is only informational. It's not arrogant or egotistical. Our opportunity is to share our witness. Why do you think they call it witness? I don't know if you'll this will be the way it affects you or what happens in your world or whatever, but I would love to share what it's been like for me and so many others I know. See, as a sales guy, so again, let's get back to how does God use a sales guy in all this? As a sales guy, I don't ever want to sell you anything, but I always want you to buy a lot from me. Therefore, it's my responsibility to create an environment for you to want what I have. If I sell and you don't like the result, you're going to be mad at me. If you buy and don't like the result, you're not going to be mad at you. And you're not going to be mad at me because you made the decision because it was good for you. It's about the benefits that you'll derive. So, again, how do you use a sales guy? Conceptual, value added presentation is learning to create an environment for people to want what you have, as opposed to preaching hellfire and brimstone. If you don't do this, you're going to a really nasty place. Does that endear you to people? Probably not. The other side of it is, can you get them to say yes? Yeah, because you scare the heck out of them. Will it stick for the long term? No, because it wasn't their decision in the first place. It was you trying to get a number. It's not about getting a number. It's about saving a soul. And the way you save a soul is to have the soul committed to do it. Well, why would a soul commit to do it? They would commit to do it because they saw the benefit for themselves of doing it. So conceptual value added presentation is actually creating a concept and presenting the concept. And when people embrace the concept, they embrace the product. So again, if Jesus is the product, I can't believe you're saying this. Jesus is a product. Yes. I mean, just calm down. Don't assign anything to this other than an attempt to help you. If the product is belief in Jesus, then the benefits is what everybody really wants. There's nobody who, quote unquote, wants to believe in Jesus. They want the comfort that they feel because they believe in Jesus. There's nobody who wants any single product that they buy. Nobody wants the product. They want what the product will do for them after they buy it. That's conceptual value added presentation. So when we talk about eternal life, if we say, give your life to Jesus and you can have eternal life, sounds cool. What does eternal life mean to me? Should be the question. Why would I want that? Why does that feel good? Why does that give me peace? Why does that give me comfort? See, what's it going to do for me if I make this decision? So, quite frankly, my approach is doing something wild, like when I get on stage, say, I'm going to start with my pre-event prayer. Lord, allow the words that I share here today to positively impact 100% of the lives in this audience, one way, shape, or form. Only you know who you sent here to hear this message. Allow me to do the best I can to deliver that message, be a vehicle and of service to you. See, that's all I can ever control is a high intention and a low attachment. See, I put it out there. And you know what happens? People come up to me afterwards and say, how do you have the courage to lead with your faith? Now, did I start the conversation or did they come because they were curious and asked me? They were curious and asked me. They want to hear more. They don't want to hear me preach. We want them to be curious. We want them to want to know more. So, as an example, I shared that prayer where I created it for the first time in Singapore. There was an audience of almost 6,000. That was the largest audience I was going to be in front of up to that time. And I looked through the back curtains and I saw it and I said, oh my goodness, I need extra strength. I'm going to create a pre-event prayer. So I created that prayer. I created it. I set it backstage. I got introduced. I walked on stage and I said, Singapore, let's start with my pre-event prayer. And I gave it to the audience. I did not realize it was a 10% Christian country at the time, by the way. But let me tell you the end result the first time I ever shared that from stage. Four Muslim women walked up to me after the talk and said, Scott, can we get our picture made with you? And I said, wow, I don't purport to understand your custom completely, but I didn't think you did a lot of that. And they said, we don't. We only take pictures of people or things we want to honor. I said, well, that's very nice. You want to take a picture with me because you want to honor me? And they said, yes. And I said, can I ask, what did I do? Or what did I, why would you want to honor me? And they said, because you made us cry. And I said, oh, okay, now I don't understand at all. You want to honor me because I made you cry? And they said, yes, because with your prayer for the first time in our lives, you encouraged us to have faith. You didn't try to convert us. For that, we honor you. Wow, what a lesson. What a lesson. See, it's not my job to convert because that night on stage, I said, it's not my job. The reason I started with my pre-event prayers, it's not my job to get you to believe what I believe. It is my job to be a living example of what I believe. And if you want to learn more about it, I'm right here. And I'd love to talk to you about it. See, I encourage them to have faith. And I said, it's my God's job to do the heavy lifting and convert you. But it is my job to be the living example of that belief, just as it is your job to be the living example of your beliefs. That's why they honored me. So sometimes we make this much harder than it needs to be. The reality, again, little sales training here, 4 words: identify problem, provide solution. If all of a sudden you're talking to somebody and they don't have the peace in their life that they would like to be or like to have, identify problem. They aren't experiencing the peace that they'd like to have. Provide solution. I don't know if this is right for you. It is right for me, but can I share a thought with you? Yeah. See, when I was at a time in my life where I wasn't at peace, I turned to God. I turned to Jesus. And the more I learned and the more I read and the more I saw other people that believed as well, the greater peace I got. And that's my desire for you, is to share that same peace. Would you like to talk more? That's creating an environment for them to buy. That's conceptual value added presentation. So I know you'll find this hard to believe. I can probably go on for way more time than we have here. And so, but I also think it'd be very valuable if you're interested to ask any questions or get any clarifications or do anything from that side. Before we do that, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. I I'm honored to be able to share this. Hopefully it has provided you value. And if you have any questions, I would love to field them.
Thank you so much, Scott, for this presentation. Guys, we got Scott here. If you have any questions, anything you want to ask, anything, because we can always improve in our business. I know that for myself. That's why I reached out to Scott. How do I do this thing? Was it and I'm gonna keep it 100. Was it the answer I was expecting? No. I'm like ready with a pad and paper. Give me some frameworks. Let's go. Like what's your like all the things. But when he shared his story, it reminded me of my story, as you guys know, in the last 8 months of the slowdown, of the relax, of the let God do this thing and just keep sharing the gospel. And so I'm going to open it up. Who's got a question? I know y'all got questions. Come on.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Scott, for the presentation. I am Steve from Kenya, Africa, and your presentation has been very good. There's a question that I have. There's a statement that you've made, which which is really very interesting. You've said that we need to say, "God, make me usable." We don't need to say, "God, use me." So I wanted to get the difference uh, between that. When you say, "God, use me as a vessel," or you say, "God, make me to be usable as a vessel." What is the difference there? Just wanted to get the deeper
So,
meaning of that.
so for me, it is God use me is me making the assumption that I'm usable. In other words, have you ever heard, God has got you planned into something, but somebody else isn't at the stage they need to be to support you and your actions, so the timing hasn't happened. So you're saying, God, use me. I think I'm ready. And God's saying the other person isn't usable. But when you say, God, use me, basically what you're saying is, I know that I'm usable. I know I got this.
Okay.
But when you say, God, make me usable, you're saying, God, while I may believe I'm usable, if I'm not, make me usable. That's the distinction between the two. One is I kind of think of it as I got this, and the other is I think I got this, but I'm okay if it gets better. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, it makes yeah. Thank you.
So that's why, I mean, it just struck me, God, make me usable. And wow. I mean, it just let that sink in. It's huge.
That's good. That's good.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I know we've got some in the chat.